This week, a hot new bombshell enters the villa.
I'm Shania. I'm a content creator and a manic money spender.
I'm Valerie. I'm a serial entrepreneur and recovering perfectionist. We're here to bring you life and wellness tips, tricks, and hacks from experts
and our personal experiences.
This is the Hot Girls Cry podcast.
Welcome back to the Hot Girl Cry podcast. Today we are going to be talking about friendship breakups, a very hot topic. But first, we're going to do this thing where we share something that we're grateful for. And you guys, if you want to just think of something you're grateful for too, so you can join us or say it out loud. Or like if you're listening with someone, have them say it, however. But yeah, Val, what are you grateful for?
I am grateful for you.
I knew that was coming.
And that we get to do this fun project together.
Oh, I know. It's so fun. It's so fun. I am grateful for you.
Cringe.
Every episode we're going to be like, you. No, but on a really, I don't know, sobby note. I literally, when I say my gratefuls every day, I'm like, Val.
Aw.
Yeah.
That's the theme for the friendship breakup podcast.
Yeah, we're grateful for each other. Definitely during this podcast, especially.
But it came about because in our last episode, Shania mentioned that in the morning she always does her 3 gratitudes. And I was like, that'd be sweet for us to just start the podcast on like a grateful note, and just maybe that'll motivate others to try it. So here it is.
It really does work. It seems so like almost not dumb, but it seems small, but I really think it does. It works. It changes your whole life.
And I think sometimes too, I feel like we've been good about we do tell each other that we're grateful for each other. And although we both know it, hearing it does make a difference. So I feel like especially if it's a person in your life or a thing in your life, just say it to them, speak it to them.
Yeah, just feel it, speak it, say it,
Manifest it.
Yeah. So we're talking about friendship breakups, and this has been I feel like everyone definitely has to go through this at some point in their life.
Yeah.
And genuinely, I feel like a friendship breakups are harder than relationship breakups.
Yeah, I think they really hurt differently. Mm-hmm. And we've both had pretty big friendship breakups in the past couple of years since being friends with each other, and we've seen each other go through them, and it's not fun. It's not a nice thing to see because it's hard, and I don't know, it is just so different than relationships. I don't know why. I guess I feel like it's just you get hurt differently by a friend because you're supported differently by a friend, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's because girls operate differently with each other than they do in a relationship. We tell each other everything.
Yeah, there's a different level of vulnerability.
Yeah, you tell each other absolutely everything, and you trust each other differently, and definitely, like you said, just a different level of vulnerability.
Yeah. And your friendship breakup that you went through, and our friendship breakups in general were very different because yours was much more public. The people involved were more publicly known to be friends with you just because of your job as an influencer.
And we all were influencers, so we all made content together.
And so there was a lot more, not that your audience was involved, but it was definitely brought up a lot more publicly. You were asked about it, while with mine, it was very private. I don't know that the girl even knows we had a friendship breakup. And so mine was just very different. And so we both had very different experiences, and they're both very painful in their own way. But you live and you learn.
Yeah, you definitely do. That's all you can do is honestly, what's done is done, and take what you learn from it and just apply it in future. So hopefully it doesn't happen again, because that shit sucks. So I definitely never, ever, ever want to go through that again. And I feel like that is something I definitely came to realize this year, was that I've had more friendship breakups than just the one that everyone knows about. Not everyone. I'm so famous. Oh my God.
You obviously know what we're referring to.
That TMZ wrote about. I've had other ones. No, but I've had other ones outside of that, because I've always, even since I was little, been the type of person that has so many friends. I love connecting with people. I love to have friends. I love to be around people. I love feeding off others' energy. So I've had, with that comes, obviously you're not going to jive with everyone. Obviously there's going to be some endings that don't turn out in your favor if you have, the more friends, the more probability that is to happen. So I've had friendship breakups outside that too. And I feel like this year I've definitely just realized that I have completely changed from that person who's always seeking out friendships and always like trying to meet new people because I've been so traumatized and I'm like, I don't want
it's
anyone
like PTSD
to get,
or like a defense mechanism almost.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't want anyone to get close to me because I don't want them to have the chance to hurt me.
Yeah. And I've always been the complete opposite where like I've never had a large group of friends. Like I don't have any childhood friends that I've like stayed friends with through adulthood. Like my childhood friends were my friends in my childhood. I had like my high school friends and then I had like a couple, like 2 or 3 college friends, but like even present day, like me and you have only known each other for a couple years and like I don't have other friends that have like stayed with me over the years. But I think I also have always really struggled to like keep friendships. And I think there's like a level of self-sabotage to that. But I think there's also just, we learn a lot as we grow as adults and like through career changes through college and stuff like that. So I think like we both said, like you can learn from it. And I think like sometimes you can make so much more sense of it after the fact when you can like look at it more objectively. And like now I can look back on a lot of my friendships and I'm like, okay, that makes a lot of sense now that I'm a bit more self-aware. And like there's obviously things I could have done differently or whatever. But you live and you learn. And
yeah,
it's just we are where we are now today because of those experiences too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as much as the friendship breakups hurt and they suck and it's drama and nobody wants that, like those things had to happen in both of our situations for us to learn how to navigate a friendship and learn how to like nip things in the butt that we see or whatever. But for me, I feel like one of the biggest things that I learned was to just trust your gut. Like believe, and I don't want to say this because I don't want to say like these people are bad people.
Right.
But believe who people are when they show you and don't like, try to see. And I'm not saying that means that they're a bad person, but maybe they're just not aligned with you in that moment.
Someone can be not for you and still be like perfectly fine.
Yeah,
like,
and they are good people. At the end of the day, they're not evil people, but they just weren't aligned with me. And the way that we were like acting in those moments were completely like not aligned with each other. So it ended up in flames. But I saw that early on and could have distanced myself. But instead, I tried to keep it going when it just ended up hurting more. So,
but I think as kids we're taught like be nice and like when someone's nice to you, be friends with them. Like be nice to your friends. Like I think especially as women and like starting from a very young age, we're very much taught to like be complacent, be polite, be kind. Like that it's almost no harm, no foul unless somebody's done something wrong. And I think we need to like really focus more on like what is right for us and like somebody can be wrong for you without doing you wrong.
Yeah.
But dive in, like start from the beginning.
Okay, well, objectively speaking, I was in a very long friendship. Not very long. What was it? 2 years? 2 years when I very first moved to LA. And, we got very close very quickly, shared a room together. Literally, we're like, and I think that for anyone to make it out of that situation is flabbergasting. Like if you can live in the same room as someone and come out still friends on the other end, that is impressive.
Yeah, living with someone's a lot, even if you're married.
Yeah, even if you're married, even if you're roommates, no matter what, and me, I'm such a people pleaser that I would just never voice whenever something was bothering me. And I would always just, take it on the chin and, just try to keep going through it. And then so much resentment just built up for me because I wasn't telling her what I needed in the friendship. I wasn't, so I wasn't even giving her that chance to rectify anything at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it's hard to especially when you're living with someone, it's already hard enough to address someone and be like, hey, I'm unhappy with this, or hey, this doesn't make me feel good. Can we change it? But to then also have the confidence and the nerve to say something when you're living with someone and imagine that conversation doesn't go well. And then you're they're just there.
Yeah, I think that was where a lot of my anxiety came from as well, because we were so close that it was I didn't want her to receive anything wrong, and then it completely changed our friendship, and completely changed my life and my living situation and everything. So it was just not the best situation to be in. And then at one point it just got to the point where for me there was just no going back into the friendship. So I tried to just distance myself and be like, hey, this isn't working out for me. And then as it goes, you're hurt, they're hurt, and people's feelings are just flying in not so nice ways. And then we had a whole Twitter so cringy now. Oh my God.
Yeah. But there was so much to it though. Y'all, because it wasn't even just y'all either. Y'all had another mutual friend in the friendship. And then it's hard when it's a trio, because then it's you don't want to feel ganged up on. You don't want to be part of ganging up on. You don't. Yeah. So and then it's who said what, and then there's a lot of room for misinterpretation, and there's a lot of room for tone. And so I feel a lot of it can stem from how someone's feeling. And then if you're already feeling uncomfortable and unhappy, you're going to receive things in a different way than maybe they were intended as well. Yeah. So it makes it really, really just sticky.
I think trio friendships are so hard, just even if there's no issues. They're just so hard to navigate with girls, because we are just possessive, I think, by nature, especially with our girlfriends. So that wasn't our issue, but just I know whenever there's groups of 3 girls, of course it's possible, but I feel that's always a harder friendship dynamic in general.
It's hard to make sure everyone equally feels loved and appreciated all at the same time.
Yeah, everyone feels the same level of best in the best friend. That is very hard to navigate in and of itself. So yeah, there was another person involved, and I didn't even really have, for me, she wasn't that's not where a lot of my hurt came from. But definitely was a part of the whole Twitter shebang.
Yeah.
And then I feel that was good that happened, though, because even though it happened in the worst way possible, at least we said all the shit that we wanted to say.
Yeah. And I think that was the reason it even took to Twitter, because I feel you got to a point where things were festering. And I feel
very
once
badly.
you have resentment in itself is poison. And then once there's festering, it's really hard to backtrack out of festering. And I feel you got to that point where you're okay, I need to remove myself from this friendship. But because nothing had ever been addressed before, and because there were things that you had been unhappy about over time that you hadn't brought up, and then they festered, and then you got to a breaking point, it was very apparent to you what was going on, but to her it was probably felt a little blindsided.
Yeah.
And then because it was almost you couldn't just dump it and be here's every single issue I've ever had, because that doesn't help anyone.
No,
either.
Yeah. I don't want to sit here and be you're wrong for this, and this.
I'm not holding a grudge, but here's everything that you did for the past 3 years.
Yeah, and what's the point of doing that if I'm not looking to continue the friendship?
Yeah, But then I'm sure it left a lot of questions for her, and so then it probably just left the relationship a little. Although it was ended, it was open ended, because you knew exactly how you felt. And you knew you were done, but it may have not felt that way
mutually.
So then when it took to Twitter, it was all right, let's share our actual feelings here, since we're not going to talk about this like adults.
Yeah, and of course it's it's always the smallest thing that breaks the camel's back. It's not the actual issues. It's you put, the smallest little thing will set you off, and that's basically what happened. So I take accountability for that, though, because I started that shit, and I shouldn't have, okay? I should not have.
And I mean, it's important to like be able to acknowledge like it's probably not the best way to handle things, but at the same time it was valid because you did feel like you hadn't been heard because you didn't ever voice all these things, but then you also felt like there was no reason to voice all these things because you were ending it anyways. But like you never were able to like get it out of your system even though you were removed.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I'm not saying they were trying to gang up on me, but I did feel ganged up on, obviously, because the friend group that I was with, I took myself out of. And then, you know, that all just continued and things were said. And so I just felt like I was just backed into a corner kind of.
Yeah.
So.
And I don't want to like put words in their mouth, but I'm sure it probably seemed like, well, you chose this. Like you wanted to remove yourself. So you should be happy when it was really, really hard for you. And like you were really sad and like really hurt and really lonely. Like it's not easy. Even if it's the right thing and what you need, it's not easy. And so I think when you removed, I think it was almost like thrown in your face of like, well, are you happy now? Like maybe not even intentionally.
Yeah, of course.
But that's just kind of how it feels.
Yeah, of course. And it's like I probably didn't do myself any favors because I always try to be like super strong and like super independent and, you know, and I am for sure. But at the same time, I'm living in the city where I just lost every single friend I ever had in that city. So it's like I'm completely on my own, living on my own for the first time. And I was just like, thank God I had you. And you were, she was there for almost all of it.
Yeah. And it's hard to see because like it's hurtful. And then when you know, like I know how kind you are and how much it was hurting you and how you were feeling through all of it. So then to see you getting like misinterpreted or and like because of course it hurts, like it hurts for everyone involved and it sucks for everyone involved. Like I'm not saying that like you did everything flawlessly and they should be like thanking you for that, but like it was gonna hurt for everyone involved. But it just sucks seeing like it takes such a gross turn when like you did it like even though you, like you said, like you probably should have acknowledged something sooner or you could have nipped it in the butt sooner so that things didn't fester. But like when you still handled it in the absolute best way that you could to be kind, to still take care of yourself, and then for it to still blow up in your face, it's kind of like, oh, like this sucks.
No, it definitely was. It was one of the hardest things I've ever been through. Definitely like harder than any breakup I've ever gone through. And it was a huge lesson in that way for me to just like, you know, really, really, obviously I still want to, and what I'm realizing now is I still want to be the person who has a friend group and hangs out with people. And that's just a part of me that I never want to get rid of. But at the same time, like I really do need to be aware of the type of people, not the type of people, but just where those people are in their life and if they're ready to meet me where I want to be met in my friendship.
Yeah. And
to
I think
just look out for those things.
Yeah, I think that makes a big difference because somebody can have like a similar personality or similar energy, but I do feel like lifestyles make a really big difference in like how you can relate to someone and how you can appreciate someone. But I feel like you also like learned so much from that friendship and like you've been applying it to like our friendship, other friendship, like meeting new people and you're like, okay, I don't want to feel this way twice. I don't want to make them like you were able to sit there and reflect on like, okay, what could I have handled better? Because at the end of the day, all we can control is our own actions. You know?
Like what's done is done. I didn't handle that the best way. And all I can do now is be sure like if I'm ever not feeling supported by you in the way I want to be, then I can just say like, hey. And I feel like the biggest thing in friendships is knowing that you have someone around you that will care enough to support you the way, like no matter what, even if that's not the way that they normally function, like if you need to be supported in this way, I got you.
Yeah. And I think it's important. Like I think in a friendship, you have to make it safe for somebody to address something. And I feel like it also like it was your people pleasing. It was the living situation because you didn't want to like make your own living situation uncomfortable. But you also didn't feel totally safe addressing something because you're like, I don't actually know how this will be received.
I never have done that before. I had been very grateful to like never really live with anyone that I was that close with. So I've never run into like any issues like that. And then I've always just been a major people pleaser. Like I never want to make someone feel like they're doing something wrong or like I'm scolding them or, you know, anything. So I was just never really taught that. And I think also, not to get super deep, but I grew up in a school where if you said anything wrong, like you could get jumped. Like people were fighting. Okay, people were fighting. And it was like, I feel like that's kind of just like a trauma thing that I learned. Like you don't upset anyone or else like bad shit's going to happen, you know?
Yeah. And like, I think just not like being aware. And like you said, like when people show you who they are, believe it. And if they make you feel a type of way, whether it's intended or not, like your feelings are still valid. So like if they're making you feel like there's an underlying agenda or like if it's very passive, like I don't know, like patronizing comments, like, I don't know, just like always just be aware of like how someone makes you feel. And then if it's not their intention, like you should be in a safe friendship to address that. And then if it is their intention, then like get out.
Yeah, exactly. Trust your gut, honestly. There is some science in that. Like your gut knows who's good for you and who's not. And don't push that feeling to the side. And I feel like it gets better as you learn like what it's trying to tell you. I feel like that's one big thing I've learned from you. You are very quick to be like, like that person's energy is not for me. And
that's funny you say that because I feel like I have like no gut. Like I feel like she's been silenced for so long that she's like not speaking up.
No, I feel like you are good about going into situations and being like, do I like this person?
Yeah.
Instead of being like, does this person like me? Like, I feel like I'm very like, does this person like me? Am I okay? You know, and you're very like, do I like this person? Do I want this person around me? No, get them away. I don't want them.
I think because I've never really had huge friend groups, I'm very happy like not having friends. And like, I always like tell Shania, like, you fill my friend cup. Like, I don't need other friends.
You're like, I'm good.
Yeah, like I'm all set. And so I also feel like I'm low key judgmental. So I feel like when I meet people, I'm immediately like, what's up with you? Like, where did you come from? What's your intentions? What are you doing here? Like, where are you going in life? Do I want to be a part of that?
But that's good though. Like you're so allowed to be so picky and
I have
selfish.
a full spreadsheet, a whole mental spreadsheet that I run through.
So happy I made the cut.
Yeah. Tick, tick, tick.
It's your space. It's your life. Like the people around you are going to literally pave the way for how your life goes. So it's so valid to be judgmental and like very picky with who you allow into your circle.
Yeah.
Because also your feelings are on the line as well.
Yeah. And your energy too, because I feel like with friendships, like it isn't just what do people bring you and how do people make you feel. It's how you can contribute to their lives. And I think like that's for me why I'm so like judgmental and like really like analyze it, because I know when I'm friends with someone, I'm gonna be the bestest freaking friend you've ever had, and I'm gonna dedicate my day in day out energy to being your friend. And it's like, is that going to be something that you receive? Like, are you going to reciprocate? Like, is it worth it? Like, and so I feel like that's really important too, is to like just consider like the friendship goes both ways and like the energy goes both ways. So it's like, okay, does this even make sense for both of us? Like, can I contribute to you? Can you feed into me? Like, how's this looking?
Yeah, you're very all or nothing. Like, there's not any like, I mean, there's acquaintances for sure, but if you're a friend, it's like, you're my friend. We're hanging out. We are spending time. We're doing all of the things. Like, you're a part of my family, my life, all of it.
But I think it's like you said, like meeting people where they're at, accepting people where they're at, and like just being aware of what you want out of a friendship. And that can mean different things. Like, I know there's so many people who say like, oh yeah, me and my friend only catch up like every 3 months and like pick up where we left off. Like, that is not the friendship for me. Like, I am not that kind of person. I want day in, day out check-ins. I want to know what you're up to. I want to know what you had for breakfast. Like, I want to be involved. And that's just how I am as a person. And like, there's nothing wrong with the other forms of friendship. Like, people have stuff going on. Like, I get that. But like, for me, that's what I need and want in a friendship to feel good. And so I try to seek that out, and I have that in you, and my cup is full, and we are not taking applications.
You're like, I'm good. I'm good.
All set.
Oh, I'm so blessed. How did your friendship breakup kind of go down?
It was a slow downfall.
I feel like that was kind of the hardest thing, though.
Yeah.
Like, nothing was ever said, and it was kind of
it
just
was like a fizzle.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, one thing I always like admire so much about Shania is like, although not both of us are people pleasers and like we're not the most confrontational people, you know when it's time to speak up, and you will. I will not. I will forever, I'll take it to my grave. I won't address it. I know that I need to. I'll know that it's time. I cannot. Like, I will just leave it. And I'd be like, I'd rather be uncomfortable for the rest of my life than say something. And that's kind of what happened with my friendship. And like I said, like, I haven't had that many like super close friends. And I think that's what also, I think I've trained myself to think that like, oh, it's not that serious. Like, they're not I think because I see other girls with like their childhood best friend and like their childhood best friends who become their maid of honors and things like that. And like, I never had that. Like, the girls who I asked to be my maid of honor, I'm not even currently friends with. And I had only known for like a year.
Yeah.
And so I just feel like, not that that's, meaningless, but I think I almost like gaslight myself and think like, oh, well, it's not that serious because I didn't know them since childhood. And so the friendship breakup that I went through was kind of like that, where like I had only known her a couple years. We got really close really fast because, like I said, like once you're in my friendship like title, we're fucking friends.
Yeah.
Like, we're the bestest friends.
You don't do it. You're a very all or nothing with everything, every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
So it's like, you're not going to have someone just kind of like, if you want to hang out, it's cool. If not, whatever,
Yeah. Like, there's that does not fly.
I'm letting you know right now.
Yeah. I'm just very, very like, I put a lot of like time and effort and like to a fault.
No, you do.
Into the people around me.
You do.
To the point where like I will hurt myself and I have like no protection over my own energy. And it's almost like, and this is like what I've learned as like through therapy, friendship breakups, and just becoming more self-aware is like, sometimes it's not even like me trying to give, it's me trying to prove that I will give. And so I don't know, it's a thing. But basically with this friendship in particular, like we were getting really close and we worked together, which made it a lot easier to get close because when you spend 10 hours a day with somebody in an office, like of course you're going to get close.
Yeah, of course.
And we had a lot in common. And then it was also coming up on like really big things in my life, like my wedding. So it was really easy to do a lot of like the best friend type things like wedding dress shopping and planning and bachelorette. And so I feel like the friendship bit kind of, to me, was like the friendship I always wanted because these things were coming up and I was like, oh, perfect. Like we're falling in line with like what friendship's supposed to be. Like we're supposed to go wedding dress shopping together. We're supposed to have our bachelorette. And
those are huge moments in your life.
Yeah.
So of course, I mean, like if you're doing those with someone, you would think those are going to be like, core moments for you. You assume whoever's doing them with you is like down for ride or die.
And I think I like almost subconsciously like forced that on this person too, because I felt so sad that like I didn't have that traditional childhood best friend to do these things with. I didn't have that friend from middle school. Like these were completely new friends to me that were just because of the result of timing involved in this huge moment in my life. So I think I just was like, well, if they're going to be in this moment in my life, like we need this to be like lifelong friendship. So I think I almost like subconsciously like begin to force that friendship on them. And because there was two girls who I was close with, but like this one in particular, like we got really close and then she had a lot happening in her life. And I think that was really hard for me too, because I felt like I showed up as best as I could to support her. And like, I think one of my things that like I am at fault for in general in life is like, because I know I'll show up so freaking hard and like go to bat for anybody like in my life, that when I need you, I just expect it in return. And it's not like I'm like keeping a tally and it's like I need payback, but it's like I feel like you should be able to expect that from the people in your life.
Of course. I don't think that's necessarily a fault. I don't think that really, I really don't think you should ever allow someone to do something for you if you don't think that you will be there for them in the future.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's like on you at all. Like if you're like going above and beyond for someone to allow that to happen, knowing that they will never be able to reciprocate it, is very weird to me.
And I think that was the weirdest thing in that friendship was like she kind of straight up said that. Like I remember she just like told me like, you're a really good friend to me and I'll never be that good of a friend to you. And I was like, okay.
You're like, great. Wow. Can't wait for that.
I'm like, are we just like, are you trying to compliment that I'm like such a good friend that you won't like amount to that? Or are you trying to like manage expectations and just let me know now not to have high ones? Like I was just so like, what? Like, why? Okay. And that, again, like, that's what, like you were saying, like, I feel like she showed me who she was. And I remember I used to always rave about this person and be like, she's the nicest person. Like, she's so sweet. Like, anybody who meets her loves her. And she's very charismatic and is very bubbly and sweet. But I remember she used to tell me, she'd be like, I'm not that nice. Like, what do you mean? And I'm like, what do you mean? And then now looking back, I'm like, she was straight up telling me that she wasn't like this person that I made her up to be. And I was just like, what? Like, no, like, girl.
Well, I feel like sometimes you just click with someone. And it seems like y'all definitely clicked. And when y'all were together, it was really great.
Yeah.
And y'all definitely I've had those when you just meet someone and it's like, okay, like, this is good. Like,
I think
love
charisma can do a lot.
1,000,000%.
And I think that's what I realized in this friendship is like when we were together, we had such a great time and it was so fun. But then outside of that time that was together, like I didn't find that she was, you know, like communicating with me. Like we wouldn't have like calls. Like I would call her a couple times like throughout the week just to say hi, and I wouldn't get it. Like not only would she like not answer, but like also just like wouldn't call me back. And I was like, okay. And like maybe that's like super nitpicky, like high standards of me but like that's how I want friendship. Like I want someone who's going to like give me, like, you don't have to be like waiting for my freaking call, but like give me a call back at some point or just be like, hey, having a tough week. Like I'll get back to you this weekend, like something, you know, like I want to be there for you. And like I won't know how to if like you're just kind of like, you know, freezing me out a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that was hard for me. Like, I think like I just didn't quite get what was going on. And I think like I was trying so hard to be like friend and be like, but we're best friends. Like, why are we not doing this? And then because it wasn't really being reciprocated in a way that I like to receive friendship, I was like, what? Like, what is going on? And she was the kind of person that had tons of friends. She had a big friend group. And I would see that she'd be like out hanging out with all these other friends. And I'm like, okay, well, clearly she has the time to hang out with all these other friends, but like doesn't have the time for me. So I think it just like made me really confused because I was like, what are we? Like I genuinely feel like we were dating because I was like, what's our label here? Because like I see that you're hanging out with all these other friends like every weekend, and it was just weird. And so I feel like I just got to a point where like I never addressed it, I never said anything, I just felt like shit about it, and like I wasn't happy in the friendship, and I was just like, I just got really down on myself and was like, obviously I'm not a priority to her. Obviously she can set the time aside to go and do all this stuff with her other friends, but not me. And so I basically like, rather than just being like, oh, we're like casual, like we're just going to hang out here and there, I just took it as like, she clearly doesn't like me, which is probably a little extreme, but I just wasn't receiving appreciation and love and like a friendship that like I would have liked to receive. And there was no communication from either of us on like, what's going on here?
1,000,000%. I mean, that's so confusing. It's like she's giving you mixed signals.
Yeah.
Like when you're together, she's happy as can be, loves you, you know, clearly gives you like a vibe. She goes like to core moments with you, which is something that a person in a best friend position would do. She accepts all of this love from you when it benefits her. Yeah. But then whenever it's your turn, it's like, no.
Yeah. And I feel like I like when I was going through it, I would always say like it is genuinely like we're dating. Like I do feel like I'm kind of being messed around by like almost like a fuck boy. Like I feel like when we were together, it was great. And then I would like leave that hangout session and be like, wow, we're like I was overthinking everything. Like we're so good. Like why did I even think anything bad? But then it would be like weeks without hearing from her. And like we wouldn't have like a next day to hang out like planned. And then I would like text her and then I'd get like, you know, maybe a response. And then it would be like out of nowhere, it'd be like, I really want to try harder and like rekindle our friendship and like be friends again. And I'd be like, okay, great. And then it like wouldn't happen. And then she would like propose like, oh, how about we do something at the end of the month? And I'd be like, okay, what day? And then I wouldn't hear from her. So it was just like so weird. So I almost felt like I was being like dragged along.
Strung along.
And I'm like, for what? like I don't think that you want to be friends with me. And I think I just came to terms with that. I'm like, it's fine. Like if you don't like me that much, or if you don't have the capacity right now to be the friend that like I really need, and if I'm too much of a like in the way that I give friendship for you right now, like that's fine. But I'm like, but what are we doing?
Yeah, why are you continuing to try if whenever I am down for the effort, then you ghost?
Yeah.
So confusing
and
on every level.
Yeah. And that's where I was kind of like, what is going on? And I think I got to a point where I genuinely was like, okay, I'm 100% done giving effort. Like, I'm 100% done here, and I'm just going to let it be what it is. I've accepted that I'm not a big priority for her. I've accepted that we're probably not going to hang out, like, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And I came to terms with that. And then like months go on, and then all of a sudden I get a message from her, and she's like, hey, like, I want to, like, I'm sorry if I did something that ever upset you. Like, I want to like rekindle what we had. Like, can we get together? And I was like, and I remember like I was kind of cold about it. And I was like, yeah, like, I'm willing to give it a chance. Like, I wanted to make it very clear that like I had been done, and like I'm open to like rekindling, but like it would need to be different, I guess.
Yeah.
And I remember I was just like, okay, like, what day? And then she suggested a day, and I was like, okay, what do you want to do? Then I literally never heard from her. We had no official plans. And then on Instagram, I see when she's out with all these other friends on that day. And I'm just like, what was the point of reaching out to rekindle when you had no intention of like following through? And I think that's what like always was so weird to me. And like this was like a 2-year stretch of like things happening, and I feel like I never flat out said like, what's up, dude? Like, it was just always like me being excited when I had a chance to hang out, and then me being sad when I didn't know what was happening, and then me being happy again and sad again. And then I eventually just gave up, and then that's when she piped up, and I was like, okay. So all that to say, like, I never addressed it. It just like disappeared, and like we're definitely not friends. We definitely haven't spoken in like a year. And like that was the last time we spoke, was her saying like, I want to really try, and like I want to be a better friend to you than I was. And like she admitted to all of those things. So I thought, I was like, okay, maybe we are on the same page. Like, maybe you're recognizing that like this wasn't totally cool. And then we made those plans, and then they never followed through. And I was like, okay, I'm like done here.
Everyone has dealt with a man like this, for sure.
Yeah. And I'm like, what? Like I've got a great man, but then I'm over here with my man doesn't even do this.
I know, 100%. Like, I've definitely dealt with guys that are toxic like that just like want you when they want you, when it's convenient for them, or when you come across their mind, or they see a hot picture of you on Instagram and then just ghost you.
Yeah. And I think the hardest part for me was like, I can accept that maybe like I wasn't a priority to her. I can accept that maybe I was too much in the way I like gave my friendship. Like, I can accept that, like, whatever. But I'm just like, what was the point? Like, what did you gain from this? Because I don't think she particularly liked hanging out with me. Otherwise, I feel like we would have hung out more. And I don't feel like she liked talking to me. Otherwise, we probably would have talked more. And I'm like, so what, like, so to me, I almost felt like for a long time, like maybe she felt like she owed it to me to be my friend because I wanted it so bad.
Yeah.
Which is like also a really shitty feeling.
Of course.
Like,
all of that is shitty.
Yeah.
All of it.
So it was just like a lot. And like, I feel like that really hurt me, and then it almost made me like really self-conscious of like, are you being like, with everyone now, it's like, are you being my friend because you like me, or do you like feel bad for me and feel like you owe it to me? Because I'm a very giving person, and like I never want someone to like feel like they have to be my friend because I did something for them, because like that's icky.
What I feel like from the outside looking in, I don't know what is going on actually in her brain, obviously, but I feel like she probably saw your potential. She probably saw that you're an amazing person, amazing friend, like you have so much going for you. But at the end of the day, I feel like her life wasn't like aligned with yours in the way, like she's probably not, you know, driven like you are, doesn't have the same like wellness interests, and, you know, just on the same type of vibe in general. So I think she likes what you had going on, but I don't think that it was necessarily like what she will ever be into having going on.
Like,
do you know what I mean?
She liked the idea of me.
It really is though. It really is though. And I mean, that's her bad for not like taking advantage of like actually being your friend, because you're literally the best fucking friend. Yeah. So she's an idiot, but.
And I think it was really hard too, because I think it made me feel like I have too high of standards in friendship. I think it made me feel like I have these unrealistic expectations from a friend. And like me and you were like building our friendship while me and this girl were friends. So like I didn't have you like to the fullness that I have you now. But at the time I was kind of like, maybe I'm just asking too much of them. Like maybe this isn't fair of me to like want to talk on the reg and to want to hang out on the reg and like be there for each other the way that I feel like I need it. And then when me and you started being friends and like it was just perfect. I was like, okay, well, Shania's doing it over here like effortlessly. Like, obviously the standards can be met. Like everyone else is just less than. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but actually.
But yeah, I mean, I don't want to sit here on my high horse and be like, wow, she was such a piece of shit friend. But like, it sucked and it was really hard and it was really painful. But what I learned from it was like, I obviously needed to communicate more how I was feeling and like maybe what I needed from a friendship to feel good. And I think that would have also opened up the space for her to tell me a bit more, because I'm sure, like, I'm not going to sit here and think that like she was perfectly happy in the friendship either. Like, obviously there was something weird going on. So I think if I had just like made it a more safe space to be like, hey, like, this is how I'm feeling. I feel like it would make me feel a lot better if we could do this. And then I could give her that space too to be like, how do you feel? I think that would have gone differently. But I think I just spent so long being like so paranoid and uncomfortable and being like, I might be doing something wrong or I'm doing everything right and she's doing something wrong, that it didn't really have any like room for communication. And then I think I also just let it drag on like far too long, and like I exhausted my energy when like I should have just accepted what she was showing me and be like, okay, like, got it, instead of like dragging it forever.
Well, I was watching it happen. That's what I was just begging for. I was like, please just never speak to this girl again. Like, you don't
I like
owe her.
needed her to like dump me.
Yeah.
It's like with the fuckboy. Like, I almost felt like there was that little chance that I was like, okay, well, maybe.
Yeah. And I'm seeing this, and obviously you're my best friend. So I'm like, what? Like, girl, like, don't even give that girl energy. Like, she does not deserve you. Like, I know how good of a friend you are. Like, you don't just talk the talk. Like, you will drive me to the other side of the United States. Like, you
literally,
you are, yes, literally. All like, she's about it. Like, she is such a good friend. So I'm like, why are you even like entertaining this girl? Like, it's like your best friend when she's talking to a fuckboy. You're like, girl, drop him.
Yeah.
Leave him alone. Like, no. And that's how I felt. But I feel like you needed closure, but you just wouldn't like. You wouldn't start the closure because I feel like it was just so messy and so many different working parts at that point.
And I think I would never start the closure either, because I started to get there was so much gray area in our friendship that I didn't want to go in hard when I'm like, because we had so little communication, I'm like, maybe I have fucked up and I just don't know it. And like, I don't want to sit here and be like, she did this and she did that, or she didn't do this and that, when maybe she's feeling a type of way about me and I just don't know. And so I do just like look back and I'm like, I wish we could have just communicated, but I also wish I just taken the hints and been like, okay, like, clearly this is not for me. And because I think it caused me a lot more stress than it did happiness, and that sucks.
Yeah.
But I think I also just like let the timing get away from me, where I thought like, oh, well, we worked together and we spent all this time together. And so I do look back and I think like now objectively looking at the friendship, I think it just conveniently became a friendship because we worked together. So we inherently spent all this time together. So I felt like we were best friends. But then the second we left our job and like we weren't working together and we weren't spending all this time together, that was immediately when like it started to fizzle. So I'm like, okay, I think the friendship was there when it was super convenient.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's hard. That's a hard pill to swallow, because I'm like, I almost feel like I made up this entire friendship in my head.
No, definitely not. I mean, for someone to accept what she accepted from you, being like the all or nothing type of friend you are, like, that's giving major signals that y'all are, ride or die, like y'all are gonna be solid. So
yeah,
you definitely didn't make it up in your head. But I don't know her personally, but I do feel like she probably liked the idea of you, so it probably wasn't malicious in her accepting that, but she never should have accepted it if she didn't see a future with you guys.
Yeah. No, for real.
No, honestly, though. So you feel like the biggest things you learned was to just, like, if things start getting, like, shaky or, like, they're not going in a direction you like, to nip it in the bud?
Yeah. I think for both of us, I think we've kind of found, like, okay, like, the second something's uncomfy, just say something.
Yeah.
And I feel like after watching each other have different friendships fester, we both are also very aware of like I remember there was one time where I said something and you left and I was like, I feel like that could have been taken the way I didn't mean it. And I remember telling you like, hey, I hope you know like this is not how I meant it, because I didn't even want it to become a miscommunication.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
When you took a nap in LA, got into your food, and I like lost my shit.
Oh, yes.
My dogs are really terrible. But I just remember being like, I lost my shit about the situation, but I feel like I took it out on you. And I was like, oh, I hope she didn't. Like, it was one of those where in the moment I didn't realize. Then afterwards I was like, oh, I feel so bad.
Yeah.
And like, rather than just like disregarding and hoping that you just didn't take it that way, I was like, I just want to let you know, just in case this was a thought in your mind. And I feel like you've done with that with me too. Like, I feel like there's been times where you've had to be like, hey, like, I'm sure you didn't mean to, but like, this is how this felt. And
yeah.
And I personally don't take criticism well. Like,
yeah,
it's not a thing. But I know that like for us to have a healthy friendship, I do have to sit back and I can't get defensive. I have to turn and be like, oh my gosh, like, I'm so sorry. Like,
of course. Yeah.
And receive that, you know?
Yeah. Especially because, I mean, to be friends with someone is to think the best of them, that all of their actions are moving out of like love and kindness and not maliciously. So even if they do something that hurts you, it's none of those things if you like have that trust in them. So it's like, if you do bring it to someone, it's just like, hey, I know you probably weren't thinking about this, or this was probably triggered by something else, or whatever it may be. Yeah. But I also do think if you're having those moments so much with someone, then y'all probably like, you know, like we've had like what, one or two of those in a couple of years.
Like one each.
Yeah.
I can remember them vividly.
Yeah, exactly. And like my other best friend, I don't even think we have had any, or maybe like one, you know, of like 10 plus years. So it's like, if those things are happening so consistently, it's like, okay, maybe we should just reevaluate this like all together, because I don't think that we need to be like checking each other this often. I feel like you should.
I think it makes you question their intentions. And then at that point, it's like you shouldn't have to question your friends' intentions. You should know that they're rooting for you.
Always. Yeah. And I feel like that's definitely the biggest thing. I never want anyone around me who sees me as competition.
Yeah.
Like, I've had that so much with girls, and just like, it's sad because to me, girl friendships are like one of the biggest gifts in life. Like, it's one of my favorite things on this planet is women supporting each other and like women friendships. And I genuinely do feel like, though, for some reason, probably the way society pins us against each other, we get very like competitive and very like, I don't know.
I mean, I feel like with the friendships I've had in the past too, like I am a very like big dreamer. I'm a very big overachiever. And I do even feel like with the friendship breakup I had, like the times that I would be like excited about something, like I feel like and like, again, it was probably coming from a good place, but I feel like she tried to be like devil's advocate, or tried to be like, I just want to bring you back to reality, or I just want you to, you know, be smart about this. And I'm like, I'm dreaming big. Like, can you be excited for me?
You better think I'm freaking Beyonce if you're my friend, okay? That's the only energy I want, is you being like, you can fly to the damn moon if you want to, sister. Like, from my partner, from anyone. Like, don't try to bring me back down to some small-minded thinking.
Yeah, like my mom and dad can do that.
Yeah, that's their job, okay?
Yeah, or my accountant. Like, she can bring me back.
Ow. 100%. No, yeah. I definitely think that's like a huge theme, is like the people in your life are going to make you who you are. So be picky and have people cheering for you and rooting for you. And if anyone ever tells you you're not Beyonce, then kick up to the curb.
Yeah, if your friends don't make you feel like you're the shit and like you're invincible, and if they're not there for you, and if you don't feel like you could count on your friends for anything, and if you do feel like there's like outside intentions or something like that, like,
you're probably
reevaluate.
Right. You are probably
Follow
right.
that gut, honey.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like that was everything we wanted to say.
Yeah.
Such a good episode, y'all. Thank you for listening. We love you. Talk to us on our Instagram. This was a hard one. I was like shaking during my part. I was like, like all the feelings were coming back up. But
yeah, they are triggering. Like, past friendships are definitely triggering. But you live and you learn and we grow.
And I think that's all.
That's all.
Bye. Bye. Thanks for listening to the Hot Girls Cry podcast.
If you've enjoyed this episode, show some love and support with a rating and review.
Or keep the conversation going over on our socials.
TTYL.